us. They killing us. We need some better days. Lord, I need you to make a way. 'Cause they killing us. They killing us. We need some better days. When will all of this fade away? Don't worry, little homie, I got you. And if you can't lift it, I'll spot you. If you're in prison, I got you. May not be a lot, but I'ma keep suits in your locker. I'm not just talking physically, cause misery is in us mentally. And looking at the chemistry, you'll see sinfully we become our own enemies. And eventually, it gets way worse, cause we rape, murder, lie, and cheat. What kind of men are we? What are we, the cool type? The ones who never lose fights, hit the booth and bruise mics. Maybe if we seen the true light, we would do right. You living loose in the time of war. Keep your shoes tight. Dudes might step on your toes. Fuck around and bring death to your door. Abandon you, leave you left in the cold. I'm telling you, bro, life is a struggle. Trying to come up with a plan, but we too busy trying to fight in the huddle. See, I'm precise with the struggle. And it's true, they unrightfully judges. Steady claiming we the ike of the cup. But if we don't learn to follow Christ, then we might be in trouble. Living in the circle lost, life in a bubble. Y'all are my brothers and I mean it with the deepest compassion. And the devil steady seeking distraction, but I defeat him with passes. I run a 75-yard TD while making moves like I'm RG3, 10 toes down. They killing us, they killing us. We need some better days. Lord, I need you to make a way. 'Cause they killing us. They killing us. We need some better days. When will all of this fade away? To all my homies on lock that's gone from the block, I got you. I'd also like to dedicate this song to the cops, the ones who wrongfully plot, kicking in doors, roaming our spots they don't even knock. This right before I cash in, the homies with rocks get wrongfully shot. These motherfuckers want me to stop, but keep on spitting and tipping on every beat that I'm gripping. They hypocritically wishing that I would fall, but I didn't. I'm on a mission and I ain't stopping till my goal is complete. I'm giving back what was stole from the streets. At times I wish that I could go to the beach, maybe even throw some dro in the sweet, to get away from all these roaches and thieves that's roguish and cheap. The ones who wanna see us fall. We work for free and then they feed us hogs. And it's crazy how they treat us like some greedy dogs. I was blind to the shit at first, now I'm starting to see it all. Trying to be a leader cause I hate to see my people fall. And there's a lot of kids out there in that world, they need us, y'all. Trying to open up my eyes so I can see what Jesus saw. 5 duffel bags of bread to the land to feed them all. We got a dream team standing tall, you never see us fall. And with assists like Chris Paul, hell I don't even need the ball. I'ma pass it to my teammate, let them shine and blind any motherfucker who ever kicked us while we was down.
What it do, what it do? It's 903 Boxing. I'm your host, Charles J. Listen, yeah, I said this 903 Boxing, and yeah, I said I'm your host, Charles J, but this ain't about boxing. Another thing I want to point out, listen, bro, boxing is my favorite sport. But when it comes to life, boxing ain't got shit on life, bro. Boxing has nothing. Boxing has no comparison to humanity. Boxing has no comparison to freedom and liberation. So this is way deeper than boxing to me. So it's no diss to boxing. Yeah, I enjoy watching it, but the reality of life is way deeper. You know, I get excited watching Muhammad Ali fights and different shit like that, bro. But I get way more excited hearing Malcolm X speak. I get way more excited hearing Fred Hampton and different dudes like that. So I just want to say, because I feel like I'm obligated, I feel like it's my duty, because I gotta speak about it, bro. I'm gonna explain that at the end of the video. I'll talk about that later, why I'm doing it. But also another reason why I'm doing it. Listen, at this point, I just feel like, listen, bro, this shit is gone. And by the way, the title of this, and this is a new series, The kingdom has fallen from God's grace and mercy, part 1. What led me to this is a lot of things, but one of the major things that made me say, oh, we gone. We lost. We are gone. Well, the straw that broke the camel straw, I can't even say, yeah, whatever broke the straw. Anyway, what done it for me is, they passing laws all around America right now. California done it. Many and all states are agreeing. The only state that hasn't agreed is Florida. All states are agreeing that a child can change its sex. That means you can cut your dick off and transfer into some other as a child. You can make that decision. You can be 12, 11, all that there, and cut your dick off. And parents are approving it. There's no protest. I ain't seen nobody march against it. A woman can become a boy at the age of 12. Let me tell you something, bro. Common sense tell you, bro, don't no kid understand how to make a life decision. No child is mature enough to make a life decision. So the fact that there's no uproar, there's no nothing, we just let it go. The day black folks stop caring about our kids is the day there's no return for us at this point. The day we stop caring about our children, about you fucking with our kids. Let me tell you something. A black woman, you say this all the time. You can fuck with anything, but don't fuck with my kids. I'm talking about even on crack and all that strung out on her run, she'll still tell you. You can fuck with me, you can beat me up, do all that shit. Don't fuck with my kids. So at this point, bro, we don't give a fuck about our kids, and we don't care what they do to them. We don't care that our kids are killing or none of that. But anyway, let me just give you a brief history. I just wanted to register, and if it don't, just it's a part 2. Maybe part 2 you'll get it. Maybe part 10, because I don't know how many parts I'm gonna do. But eventually you gonna have to get it, bro. You gonna all this cool shit you motherfuckers think you are, bro. Fuck some cool shit. Fuck some trending shit. Fuck some shit that's trending and viral. I don't give a fuck about that, bro. Yeah, this YouTube shit is cool, bro. Yeah, it's a cool little thing. You can get you some money. Fuck that shit when it come down to it, though, bro. This is the real reason why I started this channel. Yeah, I talk box. This is the reason, though. The reason that we're here. Anyway, brief history. At this point, our history damn near started from the 60s. Cause we ain't even our mind can't even wrap around the Great Depression in the 20s and all that shit, and Marcus Garvey and them in the 30s and 40s. Our mind can't even wrap around that type of shit. We can't even think back to Frederick Douglass and Harriet and them. And we can't even think about W.E.B. and none of them there. And slavery and all that there, even though slavery does affect us psychologically. At this point, bro, it's some shit worse than slavery that affects us. When you look from the 60s to now, let's start in the 60s. How was it in the 60s? There was no single parent homes. That's for sure. There was no single parent homes. We owned every business in our community in the 60s. We owned our land. We raised our animals. We knew what we were eating. We had our own vegetables. We planted our own gardens. Our kids was able to run outside and we didn't have to watch them or supervise them. There was no molesters out there and child predators. Big Mama used to sit on the porch and then have to worry about getting hit by a stray bullet. This is when black folks could leave the door open. Yeah, this is when black folks could leave the door open and leave. We didn't even lock our doors then. No, we didn't. And if we did, it was because we were scared about the laws would come or white folks would try to come burn our houses down. Shit like that. Well, we were worried about shit like that. But we didn't have to worry about shootouts and gangs and all that there. Another thing that really didn't exist, child support. Child support did not exist in the 60s. Another thing that really didn't exist. Now, when it comes to child protectives, let me give you a little history on child protectives, because it's been here. That's what they done to Malcolm X's mother. His father was a preacher that was with Marcus Garvey, and he was preaching against oppression and all that there. And they tied his father to the railroad tracks, beat him to death, and tied him to the railroad tracks and let the train run over him. His mother had 9 to 10 kids, and she had a mental breakdown. when they killed her husband, and she was left with 10 kids by herself. So Malcolm kind of experienced some of the shit that we kind of went through in the 80s, shit like that. So anyway, all the kids were separated and put in different foster homes. So that's one of the ways they use child protective, especially if you was fighting against oppression, to destroy the man and leave the woman left with kids. That's why in the 60s, all our leaders were killed. That's no coincidence, bro. There was more leaders, black leaders, killed in the 60s than any other era. There was no era where we died more at the hands of white folks than in the 60s. Fred Hampton was killed. Martin Luther King was killed. Malcolm X was killed. Many more, bro. Too many to name. In the 60s, that's when they bombed the church and 4 little black girls got killed. They was bombing our churches and shit. So, like I said, bro, the reason why child protective thrives so much now is because, for one, when the 80s came and crack came and all that there, and mothers was on crack, fathers was on crack. Our kids was unattended because we was on the dope that you gave us. So one thing about the devil will give you everything to destroy yourself and then come act like he trying to save you. So that's why in the 60s, there was no need for child protective service, because the community, even then in the 60s, it was drugs, but it wasn't that bad. So for the people that was on drugs, the aunties would take care of the kids. We didn't need white folks in our business in the 60s. See, we didn't need white folks in our business. If one of the women was on her run or something like that, the brother would take in the kids and they would get her help. We didn't see, nowadays we abandon the dope fiend. Now we abandon our own sister. It's motherfuckers don't fuck with their own sister because she a dope fiend. And you act like you ashamed of her and you look down on her. So the kingdom is falling. Okay, so in the 60s we was fighting. And looking back, a lot of people think that shit was just about eating in the same restaurant with white folks, bro. That shit is way deeper. Being able to dance with white folks at parties, it was way deeper than that, bro. We felt that giving equal rights to eat at your restaurant, that would mean you would treat us like a human being. That mean we would be treated equal. Going to school with y'all, that would mean we would be equally educated. Being able to work with y'all, meaning we would be equally employed. That's what we thought. But that's not what happened, bro. You got to look at the design and what happened. By the 70s, okay, in the 60s, most of the leaders were killed. Late 60s, you had the Black Panther Party. Early 70s, they were shut down. The Black Panther Party was shut down within 2 to 3 years. Huey P. Newton was locked up. Bobby Seale was locked up. Edward Cleaver left the goddamn country. They destroyed the Black Panthers. Destroyed them. Killed Fred Hampton in his sleep. He was 20 years old? In front of his woman. All our leaders were killed. So, after you kill the leaders, then they started the women's rights, trying to separate black women and make them think they was independent, get them out the house. Because before then, women wasn't out driving trucks and doing all this brave shit you motherfuckers do now. Black women was raising their kids, planting gardens and tending to their house. They took care of that home. And back then, we built homes. And like I said, 70s, they took the trades out to school and made our kids ignorant. So now kids are not learning how to build nothing. Before the 70s, we knew how to do everything. That's why we built this country at fuffery. That we knew how to do everything. There was nothing a black man didn't. There was no tool he didn't know how to use. We didn't need white. We didn't need jobs. We didn't need white because we knew how to build our own shit. And we circulated our money throughout our community. Something we don't do now because now the Arab, the Chinese, everybody got a business in our hood. And that's in every ghetto. And every ghetto in America is filled with corner stores and liquor stores that we don't own. So, okay, so the 70s, they started the little women's rights. And the 70s became like a party era. 70s and 80s. 70s became like just a party, get high, and just forget about your problems. 80s, it got worse because crack hit and AIDS hit at the same time. Crack and AIDS hit. Destroyed us, bro. Crack hit like a wildfire. That's when fathers really left the home. They came out with the crack law. giving you a bunch of time just for a little rock. It's a lot of things that was put into place, bro. So by the 80s, we on crack. We got AIDS. Gang banging is starting. The Black Panthers destroyed. All the leaders destroyed. So by the 80s, there's no black leaders. Understand, throughout all of our history of being over here, we've always had leaders up until the 80s when crack hit. In the 70s, we had leaders. They was destroyed though. But the 80s, there was no leader. There was the birth of no leaders. And crack hit. Destroyed. Look at all these abandoned buildings. Bro, some of these buildings you looking at are still suffering from the 80s crack era. Black people never recover from crack. Black people still, and with all these other drugs on the street, we never recover from crack. You got motherfuckers that still loyal crackheads. So, that shit still make plenty of money in these streets. But anyway, so the 80s became a party era, and we were smoking crack. But that's also hip hop became big, and it was somewhat trying to be conscious. But by the mid 80s, that's when it became gangster with NWA. So our rap became gangster. We started calling our women bitches. We smoking crack. We partying. So all this going on in the 80s. A complete transformation from the 70s. Also, the late 70s, 80s, that's when homosexuality really started trying to take a little turn and a little push in the 70s and 80s with drugs, with drug use and incarceration and mass incarceration. So yeah, they brought out a lot of gay shit. Yeah, locking men up around men for years and decades and giving motherfuckers crack. Yeah, motherfuckers was doing all kind of shit to get that crack. So anyway, 90s hit, gang banging took over. That's when the Bloods and the Crips was killing at a high rate. That's when the GDs and Vice Lords was killing at a very high rate. So the 90s, that's when the baby daddy, baby mama started. That's when baby daddy, baby mama, that's when kids really started getting taken out the home. And that's when, the 90s was the birth of single mothers. So, yeah, 90s was the birth of the single mothers. Also, rap became much different in the 90s. That's when a lot of rappers started getting killed. That's when rappers didn't start getting killed to the 90s either. I don't know if you ever noticed that. Rappers started getting killed in the 90s. Gang banging, murders. That's when murders really picked up in the 90s. So by the 2000s, you motherfuckers know now. So just count from the 2000s on up to now. And I ain't finna keep going through this shit, but it's just been a pattern of destruction. And they've given us every tool to destroy ourselves. But the sad thing now is we celebrate what you motherfuckers give us. We celebrate the drugs you give us. Everybody, the sad thing about black folks, we just want to get money. Most black, we just want to get money. We don't want power though. We don't give a fuck about power. Nothing. Hold on, let me break this shit down. One of the biggest disappointments to the black community. This is why I don't attend it. I have a grudge. And I used to have a grudge against God, but I'm just going to say this, bro. I no longer blame God. Now, don't get it twisted. I don't see God like you motherfuckers see it. I don't think he in the sky. I don't think it's some magical shit. Yeah, God is just some spiritual shit. It's just some shit you feel. Yeah, that's God. God is just some shit you feel. Yeah, that's all. He'll let you know when you're wrong and when you're right. Yeah, it's just a consciousness. Anyway, nah, bro. I used to blame God because I'm like, how can you exist when women are out here getting raped and children are being trafficked and white folks are winning? White folks are winning. It ain't no karma for white folks. So how can there be a God? Why haven't God saved us? That's our problem. Black folks just want to be saved. She don't want to be saved, don't save her. We just really want to be saved, bro. That black folks, we want Mexicans to save us. We want Asians, we want Ukrainians. We want somebody that ain't black to save us from our motherfucking self. More than anything, we really want white folks to save us. The biggest thing black folks have always wanted, we just always wanted white folks to love us. Now, that's really some shit we always wanted, but it never happened. Anyway, we want to be saved, but we don't want to save ourselves. And I said I had a grudge with God. I think God, I don't think black people are cursed. Nah, I just think God has held a grudge with us. No, I think God had a grudge with us, bro. In a way, white folks have destroyed us, but we destroyed ourselves first. When we started doing business with them, but let me explain this too. Back then, the slave trade was different. Blacks would war with other countries in Africa, and when you conquer that country, you get so-called servants, motherfuckers who drive you around, cook you food, just servants, but they called them slaves. Nothing like what white folks made us over here. So when white folks came and we building some over here in America, and we just want workers, it's gonna be great, it's great out here, and convinced us to come out there and get sold into slavery. They didn't know our women was gonna be raped. They didn't know our babies was gonna be fed to alligators. They didn't know all that shit. They didn't know we would be bred like cattle. They didn't know that. It's a lot of things they didn't know when they sold us into slavery. But the key is we became about money. As original people from Africa, the richest land in the nation, we were always given, and we was proud of who we are and what we accomplished, but we became greedy. And we started doing business with white folks when they came with their Bibles and they shepherds and all that there, and coming like they was coming in the name of Jesus. But they had them guns, but behind them Bibles was guns. That's another thing we don't understand. White folks created guns. No, before white folks came, no, it was just straight war. If there was war, there was no guns. See, white folks created guns and bombs. A way where you ain't gotta really fight. So that's another little jewel I dropped on you. You know what I'm saying? And now we worship guns. So, we just had little swords and shit like that, maybe a little bow and arrow. But now white folks created the guns. And so we was buying guns from them and selling slaves. So, fast forward now, I think God has had a grudge with us. Now, we should have never let white folks into Africa. We should have turned them motherfuckers around when they came crawling up from Europe in them caves and the Caucasus, smelling weird and looking dirty as shit and eating on their motherfucking self and all that wrong turn. Look at wrong turn and heels have out. That's the way white folks look when they came to Africa trying to do business with us. And we accepted them and all that shit, and they tricked us. That's how the devil do you. The devil will trick you out your position. We were tricked out our position. See, a lot of people think white folks just came and took over. No, they came posing as Christians. Christians. We just want to teach you about Jesus. No, they came posing as Christians, but had guns behind them. So once they manipulated us, and after they sent so many people and sent so many ships to America, by this time they got power. So now we can just come take over. Now we can go on and debo you. But at first it was finesse. It was trickery. So they pimped on us and we fell for it. So I think God has held a grudge with us because we let ourselves fight. Bro, right now, black folks all around the world, we like Samson without the hair. We are Samson without the hair. We are the strongest. We don't realize it, but we don't have our hair. And the hair for black folks is love. Love is what fucked us. We don't love each other, bro. We have no love in our hearts for nothing. We love fentanyl. We love fucking. We love fucking. We love fentanyl. We don't love each other. Anyway, so I think God has held a grudge with us. I think he held a grudge with us. And until you motherfuckers love each other, until you motherfuckers become the kings and queens that I created you to be, you motherfuckers will remain in poverty. You will remain under these white folks' rule, and they will continue to turn you into weird shit. I will continue to let them fuck with your kids and do all kind of shit to you motherfuckers until you motherfuckers stand up. Stand up. Anyway, I think that's how God feels. I think God is letting us just destroy ourselves. And until we build ourselves up, nothing will happen for us. So I'm just letting, it ain't no magic wand. God ain't gonna one day just tear down white and just give us back our shit. No, we gotta get it back. That's what's wrong with you motherfuckers. You motherfuckers don't want to put the work in. Last but not least, the greatest disappointment to black folks, in my opinion, I'm gonna tell you, this is a greater disappointment than gang banging, which is something I used to participate in 10 years ago, and I stopped being there, and now I look at it completely different from how. Anyway, the GDs in Chicago are pretty bad. The killing in Chicago is pretty bad. Let me tell you something. The church is a greater disappointment than Bloods and Crips. Somebody who was started to protect the community, and then we started bullying the community and killing each other in the community. The Bloods and Crips are a very big disappointment. The GDs are a very big disappointment because Larry Hoover and Jeff Ford, they started it to fight the police and fight the government, and now we just fight each other. That's a very big disappointment. But the church is a greater disappointment because we claim to be of God. We claim to be of God. And the church is where black folks used to meet at, and that's where black folks could always get help. That's where we used to come and have meetings about our community and what was going on. Let me tell you something, bro. Why in the 60s? Like I said, in the 60s, you didn't have to worry about child support. There was no baby mama, baby daddies, none of that shit. And our kids wasn't gay. It's a lot of shit that wasn't going on with us in the 60s. But also, you ever thought this? You ever just thought to think some shit like this? Why was there no millionaire preachers in the 60s? Why was there no $1 million churches in the 60s? Why is that? You ever thought to think that shit? Why was there no TD Jakes in the 60s? Why was there no preachers with diamonds and got their own custom-made suits in the 60s? Because we didn't give a fuck how we looked. We wanted freedom. We didn't give a fuck how shiny our motherfucking suit was. And we didn't give a fuck how good we I know the law. We didn't give a fuck about tuning up none of that old ass shit. We didn't give a fuck how good the song sounded. We wanted freedom. And we was about love. So the church fooled us the most. Bro, you got a fucking gay church now. The church let us down more than anybody because y'all are the biggest cons now. Every church is about money. Listen, is this some good church? Yeah, some good churches, just like it's some good white folks out here. But the most of us ain't shit. I'm just gonna say that, bro. And no church, we don't speak against it. The church don't speak against drugs. We don't speak against homelessness. We don't try to stop the destruction of our community. It is your duty. It is your duty as a church to care about your community. That is the first thing that comes with it, because the church is the community. So nobody let us down like the church. But that's why I never attend church. I don't even want to attend a good church until the church can come together and be who God created us to be and really be the church again. You know, that's the greatest disappointment, is how the whole message of, and you know, you want to know why it's $1 million churches? And I'm going to get off this motherfucker. You want to know why TDJ, you got TD Jakes, and you got all these dudes, you got Ricky Rutt, and you got all these kind of preachers? Because the government paid them. Oh, in the 2000s, they started a bill where George Bush started it, where churches get big grants and the government will build $1 million churches. But you going to preach my motherfucking message. You going to preach what I tell you to preach. You going to talk about prosperity and all that other shit and blame us and say how we can't depend on each other. And that's all the preachers say now, how you can't depend on folks and just depend on God and just trust in God. No, we used to just trust in each other. See, that's the problem. That's how the preacher preach now. Just be led by the Lord. Just trust the Lord. You can't trust brother. You can't trust your sister. You can't trust your mama because they talked about that's the new message. But anyway, the church let us down bigger than ever. We just falling, bro. We falling. It's gonna be a lot of parts to this shit because there's so much to say. And I'm glad I finally found the courage, bro. I told you, that was my goal when I got out, bro. I even went so far as to start I was studying. I wanted to start a whole movement when I got out. Yeah, I even called it the United Revolutionary Black American Network, Urban. That's what I wanted to say. I had some brothers in there. We were getting together, and 90% of motherfuckers, because motherfuckers get out and do other shit. But anyway, like I told you before, I got out and became ashamed to speak about these things because black folks don't want to hear that shit. Motherfuckers will look at you like you weird because you want to see your people in a better position. Motherfuckers will look at you like you hateful because you hate our conditions and wish we was in a better position and wish we loved each other again. But people say you hateful because you just want love. Anyway, bro, but I'm just glad I'm not ashamed no more to speak how I really feel. I'm not ashamed to speak against shit that ain't cool to speak about. I don't hear nobody else speaking about it. I don't hear nobody. I have never run across a black man in person since I've been out that want freedom, that want to speak against oppression, that are tired of oppression. I ain't never met one yet. You motherfuckers just... we born, we live, we work, we die. You know, just like we was brought here to work 500 years ago, what are we still doing to this day? Working. This is 903 Boxing. I'm your host, Charles J. With that, I'm out.